So I've been working a lot on content and it's taken me a while, but I still had to upload today. So I was scrolling through my email and Apple sent me an email that said that they launched some new iMacs. So I thought I'd do a video on it today. Thought I'd talk about their value. Thought I'd talk about all the new parts that they got on it. So let's get into it. As well, if you guys want to subscribe, it really helps me out. If you guys like the content, as a small creator, each subscription really helps. And if you guys have any tech questions or just want to talk about tech, there's a channel Discord you guys can go and check out in the description. All right, so Mac just released their brand new 27-inch Macs. Now, there is no design difference in their 2020 iMacs rather than their 2019 iMacs. The chassis and everything is still the exact same. It's just the internal components are what's different. So now we have the Intel 10th generation desktop CPUs in the iMacs. As well, we've got AMD Navi graphics that are also inside of it. Now, when you're looking to buy one, you've got three different options. You've got the base model one, which comes with a 6-core i5 processor. I think that's going to be the 10400. I believe it's still not a bad processor for just basic video and photo editing. As well, it comes with a Radeon Pro 5300 with 4 gigs of GDDR6 memory, and as well, you only get 256 gigs of SSD storage and 8 gigs of RAM. Now, for me personally, if I was ever going to go out and buy an iMac, I would never get an upgrade in memory and just do it myself. I would just leave the 8 gigabytes in there that they make you get by default, and then I go out and buy my own memory so I can go slot it in, because with every iMac you are able to upgrade the memory yourself. You don't have to do anything crazy. There's literally a little hatch on the back of the iMac that you just open up, throw in the memory sticks, and you got more memory. Now, with this iMac, you are only going to be able to choose the processor that is in this specific model. As well, you can only upgrade the memory and the storage. The GPU is set with this one. And yeah, that's about it. All the screens are about the same. And with this one, you are only able to upgrade to an i7. If that's your kind of thing, but you also have to just keep these same Radeon Pro 5300. Now, we're going to be selecting the $2,300 one just because that's going to give us the best selection and customability, and we're going to be comparing this to a PC part pickers list. Now, I know what you guys are going to say. I'm comparing it to a PC part picker list, but I'm just doing that to give you guys kind of a baseline of what the price difference is going to be if you were going to build it yourself between the iMac. I know the PC part picker list is always going to win. It's always going to be somehow cheaper because buying your parts yourself and putting it together is going to be a lot easier. Now, again, this is going to be a Windows 10 machine. This is not going to be a iMac or a Hackintosh or anything like that. It's going to be a Windows 10 machine, but it's going to have comparable specs compared to the iMac that we are going to be selecting today. As well, it's got a little bit better stuff, but it's got a little bit worse stuff, and we'll talk about that here. So before we get into the actual specs, there's something brand new that they added with this generation, and that is the Nano-texture glass. So what the Nano-texture glass does is it adds a more matte finish onto the glass. So instead of having that normal kind of glare that you will get with glass when you have other light sources kind of bouncing off on it, now this is pretty much only noticeable when you've got black on screen. So if there's a really dark scene maybe that you are animating or you're editing, or maybe I guess if you're playing games on an iMac, but I don't know who the hell does that. If there's any like black areas on your screen, there's going to be some sort of reflection from an outside light source. So then what this Nano-texture glass does is it makes everything matte. It's not going to be glossy, so therefore you're not going to have any reflection. There's not going to be any sort of weird stuff kind of going on with the reflection in the panel. So it basically just makes the panel a bit nicer. Now, it is an extra $500, so I wouldn't put that on. I mean, me personally, I would rather just have the glare than save the $500 and buy something else. But I guess if that's something that you need, if you're a professional and you need to make sure that, I don't know, the glare is not bad or anything like that, then I can kind of see where they're coming from. But for me, I would not get the Nano-texture glass. Now, Mac never lists their actual product SKUs. They always just list, like, if it's a Core i7 and then the amount of cores and the boost and base clocks. So we kind of have to infer which parts they're using. So the processor that we picked is the Intel Core i7 10700K. This is the kind of the same thing, except this one's able to be overclocked, which I guess might be something that you want to do. Now you can get a couple extra megahertz out of it. It's not like it's going to boost like crazy. Intel is already kind of pushing up these processors to their thermal limit with this new generation of 10 series processors. So this is probably going to run fairly hot, but you're going to get pretty decent performance as well. All of these 10th generation processors are hyper threaded, so you're going to see a lot better rendering performance from this generation compared to last generation. Same thing that I said with this one. I'm not going to like choose more memory, but I'm just going to, in my mind, we're going to add $200 to this subtotal because I think it's something that most people are going to do. And if you're value conscious, you're going to be saying, okay, I'll just take the lowest amount that we can get, and then I'll go to the store and buy the 64 gigs, maybe just take out the 8 gigs and throw in like a laptop or something like that. So we're going to say $200 for that SODIMM. That's how much a pack of SODIMMs are going to cost for 64 gigabytes, and that's what we're going to be using. So I don't want to throw in that $1,000. I don't think most people are going to, especially if you're a studio professional. 64 gigabytes and being able to just operate on your own computer is kind of something that most people can do. So 64 gigabytes is what we're going to be going with, but we're still just going to be picking the 8 gigabyte model. So instead of this being $3,400, we're going to say it's going to be $3,700. We're going to say $300 just because it might be a little bit more for SODIMMs. I know for just regular DIMM sticks that for a desktop are around $200 and something. So let's just say that is $3,700. Now for our graphics cards, we actually have something a little bit different than most Macs. So we've got the 5500 XT. Now this is the 8 gigabyte variant. AMD has something similar to their gaming cards. It's not the Radeon Pro series, it's the RX series. Those are their gaming cards. Now all these are Radeon Pro series. They're somewhat custom, but they just have different driver support, and I think they're just more meant for like professional tasks than gaming. But again, they're basically the same card as the 5500 XT, the 57, and the 5700 XT. Now again, the 5700 XT is a little bit different on this one. They just added double the amount of VRAM, so this has 16 gigabytes of GDDR6. So you're going to have a lot of memory throughput on this. So for video editors, this is going to be a really great graphics card. You're going to be able to edit 8K footage pretty well. You're going to have a lot of video memory to store all those clips and everything like that. And I definitely think that a 8-core processor should be enough. It might be a little bit lacking. And if you want to pay the extra $400, which is something that I wouldn't really recommend doing, because $400 is how much that this processor costs, and the next jump up from processor costs $500, and just paying $400 just for the next step up is kind of crazy. For me at least. The upgrades for Mac has always been kind of And then for our storage, we're going to select the 2 terabyte SSD. Now this is kind of what I would go for. Again, they overcharged for all of their upgrades, but their SSDs are actually pretty good. They're kind of on par with what Samsung SSDs offer in the build your own space. Samsung SSDs have really good read and write speeds, so we're going to be comparing this against another Samsung SSD. Now for Ethernet, we do not need 10 gigabit Ethernet unless you're editing from like the cloud or something like that and you need that fast upload and download speeds. It's not something that me or a whole lot of professionals would need. I guess if you're like Linus Tech Tips, you might need a 10 gigabit Ethernet connection because they are storing all their stuff on their own server, but it just doesn't make any sense for most professionals who are just going to keep everything on their own machine. Now then you just get the Magic Mouse and the Magic Keyboard, that's just kind of added on for free. So for our system builder, we are building a mini ITX machine, and the reason why we're doing this is because I want to kind of keep it in the somewhat similar form factor as the iMac. The iMac is an all-in-one, so it kind of really helps out if you're trying to transport or move it anywhere. Now, I can't build an all-in-one. It's just not something possible when you are building your own computer. So I had to kind of come up with something that's somewhat similar, which is going to be a mini ITX machine. So again, we have the Intel Core i7-10700K. Again, it kind of meets all those specs, and it kind of will go above and beyond because we are going with a liquid cooler. This is just to keep everything relatively silent. We're not going to be using a smaller cooler because if we're using a low profile one, it's not going to be able to cool this chip very well. Just because we're using a mini ITX machine, I had to go with a liquid cooler. Now for our motherboard, it's the MSI Meg. It's a really good mini ITX motherboard. It's not too expensive, and it's probably what I would pay for a really nice motherboard of this kind of caliber and in this form factor. And then for our memory, we went with some low profile Corsair Vengeance LPX. This is again 64 gigabytes, which is what we are going to be looking at with a 27-inch at DDR3 3200 CL16. So it's going to be a little bit higher performance than what we have on the Mac, just because it's 3200 megahertz. But I think that this is probably somewhat similar. You're not going to see too much of a difference in between those two models. Now, our drives are basically the same. Samsung 970 EVO Plus. It's a 2TB NVMe solid-state drive. Pretty fast, actually really fast for a Gen 3 SSD. And it's what we're going to be using. Now, for our graphics card, it's going to be a little bit lacking compared to the iMac. You're going to have the RX 5700 XT. Now, it's again 8 gigabytes. You're having half the amount that you would normally have. So I guess if that's a big problem for you, I guess the Mac probably will win out. Now, for our case, we've got a Fantex Evolve Shift Air Mini. Now, this is a great case for Mini ITX. I think it looks amazing. It's got 2 glass side panels on the sides, as well as it's not crazy overpriced. It's only $100, which I think is great for, again, any Mini ITX build. Then we've got a Corsair SF 750 watt 80 plus platinum certified modular power supply. Corsair makes some pretty good small form factor power supplies out there as well. It's just kind of what you need for this kind of wattage and this kind of system. Now, we included a Microsoft Windows 10 Pro license just for the reason that we're comparing it to a Mac. Now, again, I think most people are going to add the value of having a Mac's OS onto, just the value of the computer. So I just wanted to add on the value of a Microsoft Windows 10 Pro OEM license. Just because I think that that's adding some value with the Mac and kind of keeping them somewhat on the same playing field. Now, for our monitor, we have an Asus PB287Q. Now, this is a 28-inch. This is as close as I could get to a Mac Retina. Now, again, this is a 4K monitor. The Mac is a 5K monitor. Now, these Asus monitors are really nice. Read a lot of reviews. The color accuracy is great on these. Again, it's an inch bigger, but I don't think a whole lot of people are going to tell or really going to care a whole lot about that. And it's IPS screen. It's just a nice monitor. It's probably gonna be pretty similar to the same experience that you're gonna experience on the iMac. Now, for our keyboard and mouse, it's probably a little bit nicer than what you get for the Magic Keyboard and stuff like that. But this Logitech keyboard is a slim form factor. It's got backlights on it, as well as got MX key switches on it, so you're gonna have a nice typing experience on this thing. And then we just got a generic Logitech mouse. So that whole thing comes out to $3,400. Now, compared to the Mac, which I guess is $3,400, but this is without the RAM upgrade. So the RAM upgrade, again, is going to be around $200 to $300 extra on top of this. So that's going to be $200 to $300. That is going to be the difference between this system and the Mac, which is actually fairly good. I've always kind of said that Mac is going to be a premium product. Now, the only reason why we got this kind of value was because we were smart in our part selection. Of course, if you're going to be picking a Core i9 10th gen processor, we're going to be a lot further out as well. If you pick the Nano-texture glass, things are just kind of speedball and roll, especially if you're picking up more RAM. The RAM is extremely expensive. So as long as you're smart in picking out your Macs, you can actually get some really good value ones, just as long as you don't get upgrades that just kind of make no sense in terms of cost. Now, I think that the new 27-inch iMacs are actually a pretty decent value proposition. Again, you just have to make sure that you are picking the right stuff. And with all that whole entire system build that I did, I think that a lot of the stuff in there is what most people are going to be looking for when it comes to having a video editing machine. But again, the Macs are going to offer some pretty good value proposition when it comes to just having a cohesive machine able to just take around a screen and not have to have a separate system sitting around. And you're not going to have any extra cords just kind of sitting around and doing stuff. But if I were you, again, I would just say build your own computer. That's just kind of my perspective. I'm a big PC guy. I'm always going to have a PC. I'm probably never going to have a Mac in my life unless they get really good value with the next generation of chips that Apple's gonna be making themselves. I might have to check it out, but other than that, thanks for watching the video. If you guys liked it, please leave a like. If you guys want to subscribe and see more content like this, again, I usually don't cover Mac stuff, but I might here and there. If you guys like this video, you can check out some other stuff on the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.